To Tanzania now, and a follow-up to the deadly crackdown that happened after last year's elections. UN experts estimate at least 700 people were killed after protests erupted over alleged political repression around the vote. President Samia Suluhu Hassan insists security forces acted to stop looters and a coup attempt, but a special DW investigation tells a different story. Our DW team in Bonn found evidence of police killings targeting not just protesters, but ordinary citizens. And on the line now from Bonn is my colleague Michael Oti, who was part of that investigative team. Michael, welcome. Tell us how this investigation came about.
Thanks for having me. We were originally scheduled to be in Tanzania to cover the elections in October. But strangely, only days before the elections happened, our accreditation was revoked. And then it came also the internet shutdown. Now, based on our experience, we noticed that over the last couple of years, there have been several incidents where the internet has been shut down during elections in several African countries. And that raised alarm bells for us. Then our sources began to tell us about the heavy-handedness of Tanzanian security. They also sent us some information about what was happening on the ground, and then we began to follow the trail of evidence. Now, what we have shown in this documentary is only a snippet of what we're able to gather in only small sections of the country. The violence and heavy-handedness of security forces was across the country. And we had to ensure that we were able to corroborate the accounts by other witnesses and other sources as well. And so this investigation is the collaborative work of several departments here within DW to ensure that the story that we are telling is accurate.
Michael, stay with us as we bring viewers into your investigation. First, I should say, for security reasons, we've hidden the identities of the victims and their relatives, who you'll hear from in a moment. A warning, this story contains descriptions and images of violence. We begin in Mwanza, in the north of the country.
We found that police killed 4 people in a single incident in Kisesa at around 7 p.m. on the night of October 29. Security forces swarmed the area following a day of protests. The road between the town and Mji Mwema, a suburb of Mwanza, some 14 kilometers away, was a death artery on October 29 to October 30. Akida was killed here in Kisesa.
Akida had been sitting behind his house with 2 other young men. They were eating chips. Then the police arrived and told them to line up. There's a salon nearby, and there was a man ending his shift there. Police told him to join the others who were already lined up. Then the police ordered them to lie down. They lay down. The man from the salon tried to run away, and they shot him in the back. They shot him again in the chest, and then they shot him in the head. The ones who had been ordered to lie down were all shot dead.
The victims were Akida, age 31, Chacha, the man from the salon, 40, Hamu, 31, and Zuberi, 24. Akida's mother and 2 others witnessed the mass killing.
I rushed to the street and found 4 bodies lying on the ground. I lifted up my son. His body was cold, but his legs were still a little bit warm, so I thought he was still alive. I ran back home to get the car. I returned quickly to the incident scene, but I found my son had already died.
Eyewitnesses say sporadic shooting throughout the night made it hard for the families of the victims to collect the bodies of the deceased.
There were many bodies on the streets, and there was no one to collect them. Even if he was your friend, after he'd been shot, you could only run away. You wouldn't dare come back to collect his body. We couldn't even set the bodies aside. So about the bodies, the soldiers were the ones collecting them. They had special lorries for carrying the bodies.
Michael, what's been the reaction from the Tanzania's government?
Denial. In the first few days after these incidents broke out, the president of the country, Samia Suluhu Hassan, said that these were people who were paid to topple her government. Subsequently, the Prime Minister of the country echoed these same sentiments. But after increased public pressure, the government set up a commission to look into what happened in Tanzania after the elections. And that commission is led by a respected former Chief Justice, Othman Chande. Now, he's got a really good stature in Tanzania, but he led a commission, similar commission 3 years ago, to look at arrests within the country which were outside of the law. And he made some really strong recommendations for the government to look at how security agencies operate within Tanzania. I should say that that report is currently sitting on the shelves. The government did not act on the recommendations. And so it gives very, very little hope that the government is going to make any changes or anybody is going to be held responsible for what happened in October.
As you well know, the United Nations, Western governments, and human rights groups across the continent and beyond have called for investigations and clear accountability. Does it look like that will happen?
It doesn't look like that at the moment, Michael. The Tanzanian government's posturing shows that it is not in a place where it wants to be accountable for what happened. There have been some mobilization of Tanzanians who are collecting evidence to make a case at the ICC. But that process is still in its infancy. I'm not sure that they are at a point where they can actually put pressure on the ICC to investigate the Tanzanian government. We also know that the ICC takes a very long time and doesn't have a history of prosecuting a lot of sitting heads of states. So if it were to take on this case, it would be a new one. But at the moment, it doesn't look like the Tanzanian government is going to be held accountable. The security agencies, the people who shot these civilians, it doesn't look like they're going to be held accountable.
Michael Oti, many, many thanks. And you can watch the full report on this special DW investigation on our website, dw.com, or just search on social media for DW News Tanzania Investigation.